Hi, in this presentation, we're going to look at a list view that is not in a list activity, but in a regular activity. And we're going to access a database and populate the list view via the database. Now, here's our main activity file. And in order to explain some of the things that's going on in here, if I look at my country DB, I can see that this is pretty much the same file I had before. I've got DB version 1. Country table name is countries. Of course, if something changes either in the schema or the actual data, then I would need to change my version, database version, so that create or on upgrade would be called. And that then would change this create table. So this is the same kind of file that we had before. We define the table here and then execute that create SQL, and then define the data that is in the table here, and then execute my insert SQL here. Now, the activity just defines the list view, just shows the list view itself, and this is a template view. The actual view of the data that's going to be in each element of the list is in countryitem.xml. And here we can see that I have a label population, and then there's a text field here, and then area, text field, and square miles. Actually, there are two text fields here, one for the area, one for square miles, and then the final square miles prompt. So if I look at that code, I can see how that is laid out. It's a linear layout, orientation vertical, and then text view, which is wrapping the entire content, which is the name of the country, and then another linear layout with a with a horizontal orientation. We know that the orientation is horizontal if we don't specify it. And then my text views for the the population, and here's that pop, and then the area, and that we're going to populate there, and then there's the area, and we'll populate that here, and then the descriptor is square miles. Okay, so now back to the main activity, and let's see how all this happens. We can see that main activity is extending activity rather than list activity. So here's our country DB, and we've called it country database and set it to null. We have a cursor, which is the countries, and we've set it to null. And then the list view I'm calling LV countries, and we've also set it to null, because all of these are going to initialize or instantiate actually in onCreate. So after we've got our layout activity main, we want our database helper. So the first thing we need to do is set up a null cursor factory. Now, we're not really using the cursor factory, but we do need to pass it into the constructor of our database open helper. So even if we pass null, it's going to work. We just need a parameter to pass in for that factory parameter. So now we set up our country database as a new country DB with this context, the name country DB, and then factory. Now, we need a couple of arrays. We need an array of column names. So we set those up as name, pop, area, and then the fourth one is the base columns.id. This is the ID field for each row of the database. And then we've got that column names. This is where we're going to get the data. We also need an array of IDs as to where we're going to put the data. So these are in our country item XML, and it's rid.textName, textPop, and text area, and these are in the country item.xml file. LV countries is a list view, and we just find that view so that we can finally, when we create our cursor adapter and set it for this and set the cursor adapter, we can set it for LV countries, which will be the list view. And so the list view will be the cursor adapter. We'll have the cursor adapter that matches our column names where the data is coming from and the IDs where the data is going to. Here we set up our database by getting a readable database out of our SQLite Open Helper, and then we query. And what we want is all the data from all the rows. So we query the countries table with the column names array, and then there is no where clause arguments, no having, no group by, and so forth and so on. Then the adapter is matched. So all of this work has been in preparation to set up this adapter. And we're using a simple cursor adapter. And it is this context, and then the country item layout itself, the countries table, the column names, which is the columns from that table to get, and then the target layout IDs, which is the destination IDs for the data for each column, and then the final argument is 0. The old version of Simple Cursor Adapter did not have this final argument, but that version is deprecated. This is a flags parameter, this 0. For now, just put it in here. Normally we don't put any flags here at all. There are a couple of different arguments for it, but just assume 0 for now. You can always look up the Simple Cursor Adapter documentation. Finally, we set the adapter to adapter for that list view, and we're done. Now, that will display our country database information inside this activities list view. In on pause, we want to make sure we close the country database. This is very important. If we don't close it, we could have a handle out to it, or we could leak memory for the object that is holding this database open even after the application has closed. So let's run this and take a look and see how it works. And we can see we have our application running, the name of the country, and then population, area, and so many square miles. Thank you very much.